Welcome back to another episode of Sensible Reactions. Hey, I'm ShAyee. What I have is my personal knowledge and opinion. Only law is universal law, baby. I'll say this on the second video of the week. I be forgetting sometimes on the first one, okay? But I need to start putting this disclaimer here, okay? I am also going to be putting a little disclaimer in the description. So yes, okay, all right. What I want to say starting out is, if you do not know, you can catch me live on TikTok. On Twitch. I'm considering going live on TikTok and doing something. We'll see. All right, people on TikTok look. That's a whole nother conversation. Excuse me. I'm gonna say that for good day talks. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and keep this moving, baby. Welcome to another episode of Sensible Reactions. And, of course, as you know, class is in session, honey. And I have hiccups now. So we're going to go ahead and get into it, baby. Feeling all the feels, all them emotions, all of that. You know what I'm saying? Right now, I'm feeling all the feels because, baby, when I tell you I'm fasting for 2 days, just two. We doing fruit. We doing water and tea. That's pretty much it. Oh, and some seeds, nuts. Okay, that's what we looking like right now. So, with that being said, this is day one. I'm pretty much through the day. Okay, it's gonna be time to go to sleep after a while. Tomorrow, I feel like that's gonna be cool too. So I'll be good. But
Mel Gibson did it, Tom Cruise nearly busted Oprah's couch doing it, and Kanye pretty much just owned it for years now. Talking about expressing too much emotion, usually in public and in weird and often insensitive ways. Such regrettable outbursts are not unique to celebrities, of course, and they can be enough to make us think of our emotions as irrational. But they're not. Well, not usually. When they're not getting the better of us, they have work to do. Part of their job is to provide the energy and motivation that lets us meet our goals and our needs, and despite the occasional public fail, they often improve our performance in a given situation. So emotions play an important role in how we think and behave. Of course, when they blow up and someone screams at a flight attendant or punches a paparazzo or jumps on stage and grabs the mic away from a teenager in the middle of her acceptance speech to say that someone else deserved the honor more, all hell.
Hey, don't do him like that, man.
Kind of off the normal emotional function. Okay, definition time.
Don't do him like that.
Don't
do him like that. Don't do him like that. Okay? Now, do I agree with him? I don't know the situation exactly. Of course, everybody's seen the moment. But what I mean is, I don't know the situation exactly. Because, baby, if you know that this industry is quite interesting, to say the least. All right, baby, quite interesting, to say the very absolute least.
Emotion is a mind and body's integrated response to a stimulus of some kind. Emotions involve physiological arousal, expressive behaviors, and conscious experience. These can be short flashes or long, lingering responses, and they can be very clear or very confusing. Say you're walking home at night and you hear footsteps behind you. Physiological arousal occurs in the form of your heart pounding. Your expressive behaviors could be like quickening your pace or moving.
Girl, is she running? Why like she dancing?
Form of your heart pounding. Your expressive behaviors could be like quickening your pace or moving toward a street.
Why did I just think about Friday? If you've ever watched Friday, Red, was it Red? It had to be Red. Red, baby, that whole, if you know, you know.
Light, and your conscious experience may include thinking, oh, I'm gonna get mugged now? Is this like a werewolf behind me? Feeling, fear and panic. We know those three pieces are there, but psychologists are still puzzling out exactly how they fit together. How do thinking and feeling interact? Which one comes first? And do these bodily reactions, the pounding heart, the need to pee, the sweaty palms, come as a result of the thought I'm scared, or did my tweaking out body trigger the thought in my brain? These are just some of the questions that we'll be looking hanging out in this messy, exhilarating, and terrifying world of emotions. No one gets out unscathed.
Girl, y'all, this right here, I need to give me another one. Shout out to TJ Maxx.
Our emotions
Ross.
represent and construct the big part of who we are. Think of how boring we would be, how boring the world would be without joy, embarrassment, heartache, or fear. What would motivate us to make decisions, be cautious or bold, or strive to understand each other? What would keep our humanity intact? Where would punk rock come from? No doubt, we need our emotions. But how do they work? Well, like apparently everything in psychology, there are a few different theories. In the late 1800s, pioneering American psychologist William James suggested that our feelings follow our bodily reactions
Not
to
Freud.
situations. That, for example, you feel sad because you are crying, or you're scared because you're shaken like a leaf. This idea was also proposed by Danish psychologist Carl
Cause and
Lange, and
effect.
so this concept that physiological arousal precedes emotion is called the
reaction.
James Lange theory. But American physiologist Walter Cannon wasn't feeling it. He thought that too many of the body's reactions were too similar. A racing heart, fluttering stomach, and sweaty hands could be attributed to passion, fear, excitement, or anger, so how could they cause such different emotions? His colleague
Well, you know something that's quite interesting to me? I heard somebody say something that was like, somebody said that feeling butterflies in your stomach is not a positive emotion that you typically would think it is in regards to like in connection with another human being. Okay, what I mean is, like, you know how they say, "Ooh, you gave me butterflies in my stomach," right? So somebody made a nice point to say, maybe butterflies in the stomach is not actually a positive thing, because that butterfly feeling is associated with, did she say nervousness? I mean, not nervousness, anxiety. There we go. She was stating it was associated with anxiety. And then she also made a point of, think about the people that gave you those butterflies and what was the relationship like. And now that I think about that, well, not now, but as I thought about that at the time, I'm like, because the people who've given me butterflies, they all turned out to be not for me. Like, the situations turned out to be not for me. And it's a different feeling for me personally when it feels right. You know what I'm saying? I don't know how else to put it, but when it feels right, it's a totally different feeling. And that butterfly feeling is like that anxiety. It's making me think now, associating that with things like getting on a roller coaster ride. Everything where you feel those butterflies in your stomach is typically anxiety related. She might be onto something.
be attributed to passion, fear, excitement, or anger, so how could they cause such different emotions? His colleague Philip Bard agreed, concluding that bodily responses and emotions occur separately but simultaneously. And this idea is the base of the Cannon-Bard theory of emotion. In other words, a racing heart doesn't cause fear, nor does the feeling of fear result in a racing heart. Rather, both things just happen together. Today, most psychologists agree that our emotions are also tangled up with our cognition. Whether or not we're afraid of a dog on the sidewalk depends a lot on whether we're interpreting the animal's behavior as threatening.
I really do apologize, y'all. But I'm trying to figure out why this just caught my attention. This right here looks like a Joker. A Joker, like singing Indian style. I don't know what that's about. This looks like a hippopotamus from here with the eyes. But this also looks very, very long, like a anteater. And this right here looks like some type of maybe a Chinese religion, like they're standing with their back turned, like they looking that way. And this looks like some type of Chinese letter or maybe word. This right here reminds me of something like a vertebrae. Okay. Now, this whole time, because this background has not changed. Now, after watching the Rocher, was it Rocher? The ink blot test, if you do not know, go back and watch this. Hold on 1 second. Go back and watch this one. Because, girl, this whole time I'd watched this, I never really paid attention, and it's never really has clicked to me to even really look at anything. But that Joker situation caught my eye, and then immediately the other picture that I was talking about caught my eye as well. What we had? This right here. Baby, watch this one and then tell me what you think. Okay? What's good? Welcome to another episode of Sensible React. Yeah. Check that one out. Anyway, let's continue.
Or friendly, and probably also what our personal history with dogs is. In the 1960s, American psychologists Stanley Schachter and Jerome Singer interpreted this idea that cognition can define emotion into what they called their two-factor theory. They believe that to experience emotion, you must both feel physiological arousal and cognitively label that arousal. And again, please remember that in psychology, arousal is different from how you're used to using it. Here, arousal can be thought of as activation or stress or even energy, an increase in reactivity or wakefulness that primes us for some kind of action. So sometimes arousal can spill over from one event to the next. Say you just watched a heated soccer match and you're all revved up and someone looks at you funny. Suddenly, you might label that lingering arousal as anger, and the next thing you know, the whole stadium is one big rioting aggro chain reaction. Schachter and Singer examined this so-called spillover effect with an experiment that involved an unusual combination of college guys and drugs. First, they injected a bunch of college guys with the hormone epinephrine. This is basically adrenaline, and as you yourself have probably experienced, it induces a level of physiological activation that can go any number of ways emotionally. But then they threw a curveball. Some of the subjects were told to expect symptoms of feeling all revved up, while others were told the injection wouldn't produce any effects at all. Then, after being injected, each subject was left in a waiting room, and with them in the room was an actor, pretending to wait as well, and acting either all jerky and irritated or super happy and euphoric. So the dude's just sitting there, jacked up on this hormone, and his heart is racing, and his cheeks are all flushed. And in the case where the subject was told not to expect any effects, the study found that the guy would actually adopt the emotion of the actor in the room, becoming happy or testy depending on how the person was acting. His body was having a physiological response to the hormone, but he ended up effectively deciding which emotion he was feeling. But if the subject had been told that the injection would make him feel all pumped up, he'd actually report very little emotion, just because he was blaming that racing heart and flushed face on the drug. Not
so basically, like somebody I know, if you're watching this, somebody say do one thing, you do the opposite.
Not a particular state of mind. So in terms of the two-factor theory, the cause of physiological arousal had to be identified before a person could feel and label the response as a particular emotion. To Schachter, Singer, and their disciples, this meant that arousal spurs emotion, but cognition directs it. And yet some researchers, like Polish-born American psychologist Robert Zients, contend that all emotions are the result of just putting a name to our arousal. He suggests that many of our emotional reactions occur separately or even before our cognition kicks in. If you hear a sudden crash outside your window, you'll automatically react with a jolt before your brain has the chance to think, gee, what was that crazy noise? Should I feel?
Now that's true, baby. Yeah, I'm pretty sure all of y'all do that. I don't know, all y'all should know that one. I can definitely say that. And sometimes it's delayed reaction like a mug. Sometimes it's delayed reaction like a mug. Okay, baby? Now that right there, you need to you need to check that out. You don't need delayed reaction, baby, okay? That's how you get hurt. Okay, the body is supposed to respond.
Startled? This is in part because when it comes to emotions, it's thought that our brains process sensory input by two different kinds of routes, top-down or bottom-up approaches, and neuroscientists can actually chart these two pathways in action. Some bigger, more complex feelings like love and hatred take what we call the high road. Say you read a love letter from your sweetie. You can pin that mushy feeling in your heart to the sensory stimulus of reading, traveling from your eyes all the way through your thalamus to your brain's cortex. There it can be analyzed by means of your cognitive process, perhaps consciously, perhaps implicitly, and labeled with like, oh, it's so sweet. At which point, it heads to your limbic system, the central brain.
I was talking on mute. First of all, I want to know how the cognitive process really works. Like, I need to get into when certain things occur, how does the body respond? Like, here, like the system, it hit this and then it hit that and then boom boom. I want to know that. I'm interested. We got to get into some things, girl.
to your brain's cortex. There it can be analyzed by means of your cognitive process, perhaps consciously, perhaps implicitly, and labeled with like, "No, it's so sweet," at which point it heads to your limbic system, the central brain region that drives emotion, motivation, and at that point you respond with all the warm fuzzies. Other emotions like simple likes, aversions, and fears don't have to involve actual thinking and take a sort of low-road neural path, like that crash outside or a baseball flying at your head. Such jump-out-of-your-chair stimuli bypass the cortex and zip right from the ear, the eye, to the amygdala and the limbic system. It's a knee-jerk reaction that allows us to react quickly, often in the face of potential danger. In other words, that slower, high-road cortex route allows thinking about feeling, while the quick, low-road shortcut allows instant emotional reaction. The stomach flip that happens when you see your ex, or the 10,000 pee breaks you gotta take before you give a speech, or your heart racing after a really good kiss. It's hard to argue with the fact that we often feel emotions with our bodies as much as with our brains. And you could
Okay, so girl, that's giving, and it might not be the exact same, but girl, that's giving like feeling, being burnt but not feeling it immediately. It's not a sensation that your body starts to feel until it's a little too late sometimes. Yeah, because I'm pretty sure somebody has experienced this where you literally, girl. What's this? I don't think this is a cut. Girl, let me tell you, yeah. I don't even want to talk about. Anyway, I think it was on my finger. Honey, I'm talking about just on it. It was like a good 5 seconds. 5 seconds is very long. Okay? I know you don't think it is. Because you know, Speedy Gonzalez with time and everything. Just 5 seconds is very long, okay? So 5 seconds, baby, and you're not feeling nothing. Like it's not clocking to you yet. You feel what I'm saying? And then when it clock, you know what I mean? Then you start feeling the feels. It's like adrenaline.
Thank your autonomic nervous system the next time you're freaking out or trying to calm yourself down. Perhaps you recall when we talked about the roles of the sympathetic and parasympathetic branches of our autonomic nervous systems. The sympathetic division is what arouses you in a crisis. It makes you hyper-aware, makes your heart rate and breathing increase, spikes your blood sugar for extra energy, all that fun stuff. It's like a pit crew readying you for action. And once it's done its job and the danger has passed, the parasympathetic division steps in and docks you back down from the edge, slowing down your heart and breathing rates and shutting off those stress hormones, generally rubbing your back and being all, "Everything's gonna be okay, baby." What you need is the right degree of arousal for the situation. For example, if you're navigating through fast-moving traffic in a city, you want to hit the sweet spot of optimal arousal that allows you to focus your attention without either freaking out or getting all mellow and sleepy. Like we said before, there's a lot of overlap in the symptoms of different emotions. If you monitor the heart rate, breathing, and perspiration of a group of people who are watching 3 different movies, you probably couldn't tell who was watching the grisly horror movie, an angry fight, or a hot sex scene. Fear, anger, and sexual arousal often deliver some of the same biological signals, but those emotions certainly feel different to the people experiencing them, just as they usually look different to others observing their expressions. And though differences in emotion can appear subtle or even undetectable on brain scans, many of them do show distinctive patterns. For most people, positive feelings tend to show more activity in the left frontal lobe, while negative ones show up more in the right frontal lobe. And someone who's very afraid will show increased activity in the amygdala, our more primal emotional center. Emotions
in the middle.
are fascinating.
In the middle. Okay, so you got left, right, middle, all right.
Will show increased activity in the amygdala, our more primal emotional center. Emotions are fascinating things that drive us to do all sorts of brilliant and weird stuff. Understanding them and being able to read them both in yourself and others is vital if you want to make it through even an average day. But misreading your emotions or someone else's can be confusing, even dangerous, and it's just one of the things that we'll be looking at next week.
Well, baby, let me tell you now, some people in their emotions are very complicated, okay? Some people don't know their own self in order to help you, okay, process. Sometimes it's just so chaotic to where that's what it is, okay? It's so much going on to where it's just that, you know what I'm saying? You ain't got time to add no extra to it to try to figure it out. No, it's just chaos, okay? I don't have time to unwork and undo. Okay, all right. Anyway, y'all have a good one. We on to the next video. And if you do not know, baby, again, you can catch me live on Twitch. Okay, link in the description below. Hit that like button before you go. Thank you. I appreciate it for real, seriously.